Chapter 1. I'm finally out. Chen breathed in the fresh air outside and shouted with all his might. Behind David is Horrendal Prison. He stayed here for 3 years and was finally released today after serving his sentence. Hey, I don't know what happened to your parents. David carried a ragged canvas bag and hurried to the house. His parents had never seen him once in 3 years, and now David was very worried about them. On the way home, he kept looking at the bronze ring he was wearing. The ring is engraved with a lifelike dragon, and there is a command word at the position of the dragon head. This ring was given to him by his fellow inmate Irvin Lau when he was released from prison today. This Irvin is a very strange person. He talks about it all day long, saying that he is the master of the dragon sect, who knows astronomy and geography, and is proficient in forensic medicine, which can bring people back to life. Everyone regarded this Irvin as a lunatic and didn't want to pay attention to him. Only David would chat with him when he had nothing to do, and he even gave him some of his meals. Irvin told David some strange things every day, about Dragon Sect, about Dragon Island, things David had never heard of. Later, the old master asked David to accompany him to meditate and practice the exercises every day. David was also bored, so he learned along with him. But who knows, 3 years later, David actually followed the old Irvin to practice his skills and medical skills. Just when he was released from prison today, Irvin handed the ring to him and told him that on July 15 this year, go to an unnamed island in the East China Sea no matter what. As long as he arrives on the island, show the ring, someone will pick him up, and then he will have a big chance. Because he did learn a lot from Irvin, David believed in Irvin's words and agreed, but there are still several months before July 15. Before he knew it, David had already walked to the door of the house, looking at the dilapidated house in front of him. His face was complicated, he didn't know what happened to his parents in the past 3 years. Because of his impulsiveness, his parents would have been under a lot of pressure. Thinking back 3 years ago, David's eyes are still flashing with anger. 3 years ago, he and his girlfriend Delia Zheng had reached the point of talking about marriage. The two were college classmates and had been talking for 2 years. But one day, on the night of sending Delia home, the two met a drunk Jordan. This Jordan is a famous second-generation rich in Horrendal, and he has done all the bad things. As a result, when Jordan saw that Delia was beautiful, he became ill-intentioned, and started to act on Delia. As a well-known local rich second generation, Jordan Shao didn't even look at David at all. Seeing his girlfriend being insulted, David went crazy. Picked up a brick and smashed it on Jordan's head. The results are predictable. The powerful and influential Jordan was beaten. Of course, he would not let it go, and directly called the police and arrested David. Sentenced to 3 years in prison for intentional injury. It was not until today that David was released. After hesitating for a long time, David gently knocked on the door. Who is it? The door opened, and an old woman with white hair and a rickety figure stuck her head out, groping forward with one hand. Who is knocking on the door? The old woman's eyes were closed, and it was obvious that she couldn't see anything, so she was blind. When David looked at the old woman in front of him, he was stunned, his eyes were wide open, and his whole body was shaking slightly. He couldn't believe that this old woman with white hair and a wrinkled face in front of him was actually his mother, Barbara Tang. In just 3 short years, how did his mother become like this? Mom, it's me, I'm David. He stepped forward to support his mother and shouted excitedly. David, is it really you? Barbara touched David's face with both hands, and the tears couldn't stop flowing. Mom, it's me, it's me. David's eyes were also red. Mom, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? David didn't understand. His mother was fine when he left. Why did she become like this in just 3 years? Hey, it's a long story, come on in. Barbara pulled David into the room. Looking at the humble room, almost empty, David was dumbfounded. Although their family is not rich, but his father has a formal job, so it is still possible to achieve a well-off life. But how has the family become like this now? Mom, what happened at home? When David saw the appearance of the family, he asked his mother. Hey, Barbara sighed. After you left. Barbara recounted the matter from start to end. It turned out that after David was imprisoned, the Shao family did not intend to let them go, and demanded compensation of 1 million. In the end, there was no way. David's parents sold his marriage house and borrowed a lot of money. But they still couldn't collect enough. In the end, the remaining $300,000, they could only pay the Shao family in installments. For this reason, David's father's job was also gone, and he could only make a living by sweeping the streets. While his mother washed her face with tears all day long, and her eyes got blinded by crying. This is why David was imprisoned for 3 years, but his parents never saw him once. Listening to his mother's remarks, David slowly clenched his fists, and there was a majestic killing intent in the depths of his eyes. He didn't expect this Shao family to be so cruel. This is to kill their family. Mom, doesn't that Delia care about you at all? David asked with a puzzled face. That Delia is his wife who is about to go through the door, and he is imprisoned for that Delia. It is impossible for Delia to look at her parents like this and be indifferent, right? Oh, don't mention it, the Zhang family doesn't care, even the dowry we gave, I wanted to come back, but they didn't give it. They said it wasn't their fault that they couldn't get married. It's because you're in jail, so the dowry won't be returned. Your dad asked them for a theory, and they were beaten up by their family. The more Barbara spoke, the more bitter her heart became, and in the end she couldn't stop her tears. Chapter 2. Then the Zhang family is really like this. David's brows were tightly knit together, he couldn't believe that Delia was really like this. When he was arrested, Delia cried and said that she would wait for him to come out, and the two are getting married. How did it become like this? David decided to ask Delia to clarify. But at this moment, the door was suddenly slammed with force, so strong that it almost knocked the door off. Hearing the knock on the door, Barbara's face suddenly turned pale, and he could see that she was very scared. Mom, who is this? Seeing Barbara's expression, David asked with a frown. Don't worry about it, go back to the room quickly, don't come out. Barbara pushed David into the room and opened the door nervously. The door had just opened, and a bald guy with 4 or 5 tattoos and a fierce face walked in. How is the money prepared? The bald head looked at Barbara and asked. Brother Bald, everything is ready, ready. Barbara kept nodding, reaching out and groping to take out a cloth bag from the corner. At this time, many neighbors in the neighborhood also gathered around. Looking at the bald-headed people, they all hid far away. These guys come to ask for money every month, they really want to kill people. No, there is no law at all. Shish, keep your voice down, these guys are all sent by the Shao family to collect money on a regular basis. A few neighbors hid aside and talked angrily, but no one dared to care. At this moment, the bald head grabbed the cloth bag in Barbara's hand, opened it, and glanced at it. What the H3LL is this? The bald head frowned and turned the bag over. There were some old banknotes scattered all over the floor. There were 100, 50, 1 or 2, and even many more. Gross coins. Can these junk be worth 10,000? The bald head asked Barbara loudly. Brother Bald, it's exactly 10,000, we've counted it, you can count it if you don't believe me. Barbara accompanied her smile, nodded and bowed. F.Art. The bald head kicked Barbara's abdomen, and she directly hit the ground. Let me count. I don't have the time, so give me 100 bills. Mom. David rushed out of the back room and hurriedly helped Barbara up. The cold eyes swept across the bald people, and the eyes flashed with coldness. The bald-headed people were stunned for a moment, and they all shuddered under David's eyes. David, who told you to come out? Hurry into the room, don't worry. Barbara desperately pushed David into the room. Mom, since I'm out, let me handle this matter, you sit down. David helped Barbara sit on the stool, then turned around and looked at the bald head coldly. The bald head glanced at David, and said with a sneer. Isn't this the guy who hit Master Shao with a brick and served 3 years in prison? I didn't expect him to come out. It's really time to come out. Today is the big day for your girlfriend and young Master Shao to get married. Isn't the ex-boyfriend going to participate? Green Hat Turtle. Ha ha ha. The bald head and a few men all burst into laughter. What did you say? David frowned, his eyes full of disbelief. I said that the woman you were in jail for her is going to marry young Master Shao today. The wedding will be held at the Regal Hotel, but it's luxurious. Why don't you go take a look? The bald head looked at David with a sneering expression. David's brows furrowed even tighter, his hands clenched tightly into fists. Behind him, Barbara's face changed, and she was shaking with anger. After all, her son was imprisoned because of that Delia, but she didn't expect this woman to turn her head and marry her enemy. You kneel down and apologize to my mother, and I can spare your life. A cold glow flashed in David's eyes, and the killing intent rose from his body. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped a bit, and the laughter of the bald people stopped abruptly. After a while, the bald head reacted and said angrily, "What did you say? You asked me to kowtow and apologize." With that, the bald head, he smashed David with a punch. With David's small figure, this punch can make David fall to the ground. Bang! But who knows, when the bald head just rushed up, David kicked out. The bald man suddenly fell to the ground clutching his crotch, sweating profusely in pain, and screaming constantly. "David, you can't fight anymore." Listening to the wailing of the bald head, Barbara hurriedly shouted at David. David was imprisoned because of the attack. It just came out. If he was sent in because of the fight, would it still be worth it? "Kill him for me, kill him." The bald head roared and stared at David viciously. Several bald men rushed towards David. David glanced at his mother, his hands suddenly flicked, and several white lights flashed. And all those people felt their legs numb, and they all fell to the ground. This time, the bald head was startled and looked at David in disbelief. A chill came out of his heart. The neighbors outside saw the scene in front of them, their eyes widened, and some couldn't believe it. "Apologize to my mother." David's icy voice sounded again. The bald head hesitated for a moment, but seeing David's cold eyes, he could only kneel on the ground. "Sorry." The bald head and a few of his subordinates began to apologize. "Go away." David waved his hand. He didn't want to kill in front of the neighbors and his mother. If he wanted to kill these little gangsters, it was just a matter of snapping his fingers. The bald head was supported by his subordinates and stood up, gave David a vicious look. And they limped away. Obviously he was not convinced, but David was not afraid of the bald head's revenge.
Please subscribe to follow the next more exciting chapters.